You're listening to the official Minnesota Wild podcast, presented by Acrisure.
Trying to look like Zeke Blam and in the number one power play unit and playing in regular line rushes.
Yeah, like I said, we have a plan for him, and this was the next step, as I talked about prior to the game, the steps we put him through, and then give him an opportunity for obviously a real good structured practice and give him some opportunities to see what he looks like in those situations. So I think it was a good day.
What was your reaction to that? How did he look?
He looked good. We just talked with him about feeling more comfortable. Like I said the other day, I think that Jack Capuano spent some time with him prior to the game, just going through our video stuff. And I had the opportunity to talk to David Carl yesterday about him a little bit more and had a good conversation with Zeke. And I just think he's a really good player, but let's try to do the right things to give him the best chance. And today I thought he did a good job. And talking to him after practice, he obviously felt more comfortable, but said it was a little bit different too. The passes, the speed of the practice, the details guys play with are good. So good day for him.
Does that indicate your plan for him, John, for game one, or what would have to change for him to not get that opportunity?
I would just take it day by day with him right now. I think that. As I said, I don't want to get too far ahead with it, particularly now that we have 2 days out. Now, you asked me that question Saturday, I'll have the answer for you for sure. But today was like, okay, let's see some things, what it looks like, and just keep moving forward. With our team, we're healthy, and I think, as I said, it was a good day for Zeev to put him in some situations that we think he can help us in, and just continue to try to make him feel comfortable and understand what's going on.
Vegas, their penalty kill hasn't been great this year, but they also are aggressive on the penalty kill. I mean, would it be tough to play 5 forwards against them on that penalty kill? Would it be a liability to potentially shorthanded, or does that have something that you're thinking in terms of maybe putting in a defenseman in that spot like Zeke?
Not necessarily the 5 forwards, because to be honest, I think versus pressure, whether it's a D-man or a forward up there, your flanks have to be responsible. Where you could get in trouble is if there's a scrum on one side of the ice and that weak side flank is low and not where he needs to be. That's where some of those odd man rushes come up. But looking at Zeev in that situation, he is a top end power play defenseman. So today was just looking at that, him up there, and seeing what that group possibly could look like.
Mm-hmm. With Kirill and Eck, it sucks that you guys missed them each for about half a season. When you look at this series, John, and know that it likely could go 6 or 7, it's going to be a war. How much does it help to know that half a season of freshness is on both their legs?
I think it could always be positive, for those guys. I think that, playoffs, is the second season. I think you feel renewed life, too, as well. So I think for Kirill and Eki, that time off, yes, sometimes I think that could be a benefit, just not as many miles on the body throughout the year. But in saying that, they're also coming off of injuries and recovering from those things. I'd probably say, excited to have those guys healthy and playing the way that they're playing. But I think that our team in general, once you get through that regular season, now you come back today, there's a renewed excitement, I think, for everybody.
No one might have more on their plate than Eriksson Ek in a playoff series, just with all the different roles that he has, but that's like right up his alley. That suits him.
I mean, he has a lot of responsibilities, obviously, in a big role, but that's that's who he is, and he's shown that he thrives in those environments and thrives in those roles.
The matchup role, is he kind of maybe uniquely suited to that, in that he doesn't just kind of go in to defend and shut someone else down? Like, it's more like, you got to shut me down. You know what I mean? Like, the way that he can play offense, he's just not going in defensively. They have to be leery of him just as much. Yes,
that's what makes Eki a hard player to play against. Now, it's not just all him, but it would have to be his line mates having that same mentality. But yes, I think when you're a player that plays against top players, when you're on offense, you don't want to be defending, right? But he had his style of game and the way that he plays, with Bolds, and I think Kirill, when they are on offense or in the offensive zone, I think all three of them have the ability to make another team have to defend and check. But all three are also responsible when they're called upon to defend, rush defense coming into our own end. I think that those guys can handle that.
Has that blurred over time, like the traditional old school matchup role, and you're just going to follow this guy around the ice and shut him down because everyone's skill sets are so varied now that it just seems like it's just not these decisive roles that just shut this guy down?
Yeah, I think it probably depends on the team and the situation. I would say you're correct more often than not right now. But I do think you could get into some situations where there is a line, that you either designate or the other team designates to basically check the other team. It doesn't mean that you just defend, but your responsibility is to make sure that you make the game hard for these guys and you're not giving them easy offense. Your pucks are in, you're forechecking them, you're making them defend, and then when they are in the offensive zone, you have heightened awareness. So I do see that, but it's not so much following guys around. I think there are assignments versus certain lines.
What's the challenge of getting inside against a team like Vegas with the way they're sizing the blue line, and how important I think you think that'll be in the series of creating offense?
Yeah, it'll be big. I mean, it's to be able to get to the inside is where you have to score this time of year unless there's a major breakdown. But we got to skate. We got to play fast in the offensive zone. I think it starts with a shot mentality. What we worked on today, you got to have strong puck retrievals. If we're going to stay on the perimeter and pass the puck around, you have to play direct. You have to deliver pucks to the net. You got to have shots, shot attempts, rebounds, check it off of sprays. Now they have to get out of some structure, and then you have to attack quick.
Is that the biggest threat Vegas poses? Is that size on the blue line, or to you, what's the biggest thing you guys are going to have to counter?
I just think that they're a good, strong, well-balanced team. I think when you look at their lineup and the way that they play, I think they play a strong team game. They have big defensemen that I think play a pretty responsible game, and I think their forwards are, strong and heavy. So I think that really what defines their team. They have special players for sure, but I think that collectively as a team, they play the game that most nights is required to win.
What do you see from Marco right now, to be able to function and continue to or get back to being an impact in the playoffs?
Well, that's the. Really, it's the things that we talk about. His speed has to be a factor because that's one of his best assets. I think his competitive nature on the puck to get over pucks, win puck battles offensively, be an elusive player, second and third effort on pucks, to allow him and his line to be able to play in the offensive zone. And then there's got to be a willingness, to get into the net front. That's what this time of year requires from everyone, and that's where, I think for Marco with that mindset and using his assets, but being determined in those areas I just mentioned.
Did you feel like it sort of waned in the last couple of weeks? Like in Vancouver, he didn't play a lot of even strength in the third period when the going was getting tough. I mean, it just feels like his ability to break down defensemen the last month has not been like it was earlier in the season.
Yeah, I don't know if it's waned. I just think at certain times guys don't have it at the level that you need them to, and I think now having a reset and going into this playoff series and everyone's I think rejuvenated, and now you're playing one team. You know what the game is going to be called upon. You're not playing one of 82. There's a certain things that they do that you're going to have to be committed to doing, and that's what we're going to need from him.
It was a quirk of the schedule, but the 3 regular season games you played against Vegas, all 3 were on the second night of back-to-backs. Just now to have 3-4 days essentially to prepare for a team, just how much of a luxury is that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to, no matter what, it's going to be a challenging series, for the playoffs. And for us, it's, I think, with our mindset for our team, it's, I think, just little pieces. Today was one component of our game, showed some video on that, and just making sure that I think we understand how the style of game we need to play. But to me, it's as we move forward, it's the mentality. It's going to be the commitment to dig in and play the games where there's no time and space. You have to fight for ice. You got to take away their ice and understand that it's not going to be a beauty contest. It's going to be a hard fought game. And to me, the tactics are the tactics. But we got to make sure that mentally we're ready to play and give that style of game.
Faber's minutes lately and just his impact, John, is this, do you think, a preview of what's to come for him, or do you kind of think that'll temper a bit just how much you've been using him and find he's suited him? But, do you think this is just the beginning for him, or might temper it?
Yeah, I mean, I think it will depend. When you come into these things, you play every game to win, and you got to try to do what's required to win. Just no different than I think the players on the ice when they're playing the game. They got to play the game that's required to win, and it's about that game and nothing else. And I think same thing from a coaching perspective is you're coaching to win that game. So whatever it takes to win that game, those are the decisions you got to make.
Is this the best we've seen of Johansson, at least production-wise, and just the way he's been playing lately?
Yeah, I think Joe's really. It's good to see him playing the way that he is playing. Obviously, the production is good, but I think he's been very consistent to get that production. Mm-hmm. Skating's been a factor. I've really liked his competitiveness. He's able to log ice time. He's playing a lot of different situations for us. But Joe's a really smart player. He's got good skill. But I think when he's playing a speed game and his competitive nature is high, I think those are the two triggers that allow him to be able to produce, get chances, and be a hard player to play against.
John, you talk about getting into playoff mentality and just the way the pressure's ramped up. Your team's been fighting for points for the last couple weeks. Is it almost like you've been in a playoff mood already? Yeah,
for sure. It's that's really what we were going through, right? Like you're going to go through situations in a playoff series, right? Game one, people are going to be nervous. You got to go in and play, right? And then all of a sudden, everything changed, dynamics change, right? And eventually, there's going to be, a differentiating game in the series. Is it where you can get to that third game, and then there's a closeout game, but then there's the mentality you deal with, right? The night before the game, playing through it, and we've had multiple opportunities to test ourselves, and some of them we've come through, and some of we haven't. So I think at least for us going into this series, we've had to fight to get there, and it's going to be no different in this series.
I know you don't create a momentum game to game or game into a new first round series, but the way you guys won the last couple of games, the rally and it seems like the vibes around the group, or like the energy is pretty high right now. Can that help go into a playoff series? Like kind of seeing kind of what happened the last two and kind of how that kind of took you where you are. You didn't back into the playoffs.
Yeah, I think having your back against the wall and understanding how you need to play and playing that way and finding ways to win certainly helps. I do think I wouldn't necessarily say it would be momentum, but I do think it's a confidence. It's a confidence that you handle these situations, you understand the pressure, the when to get in, not doing it against Calgary. And as we came down the stretch there, come down 2-0 to Vancouver, down again, against Anaheim, but probably in two games where we could have been rewarded more than we were, but we found ourselves at the short end of the stick. But the determination, I think the mindset, the style of game we played, that's going to be important. That's how you have to play to win.
Thanks, John.
All right, thank you.
For an extraordinary advantage in sports, you need a game plan. For an extraordinary advantage everywhere else, all you need is Acrisure. With a high-tech human approach to insurance, cybersecurity, and more, Acrisure helps you take care of what you care about. That makes winning easy. See what Acrisure's extraordinary advantage can do for you at Acrisure.com.